Craig Sutton, Chief Academic Officer here at Hardin County Schools, and just want to welcome you all back today on this month's edition of Impacting Learning and Empowering Students. Of course, we're right here in the month of November during this school year, and we've got a big day coming up. I believe it's next Friday, November 11th.
Yes, sir.
Which is Veterans Day, and I think that's something we have to make sure we represent here in Hardin County Schools, our appreciation for our veterans and how they represented our country, fought for our country, and we still have people that are coming back to teach in our programs here in our school district. So very much looking forward to November 11th so we can honor the veterans, not just our community, but the United States of America. So here with us today on our show, we've got two of our veterans that are working here in Hardin County Schools in our JROTC programs. I want to welcome first Sergeant Major Retired, Mr. Charles Robinson. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yes, sir, my pleasure.
I also have Chief Warrant Officer, Retired. We have Mr. Edward Dick here with us today as well. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. So just going to kind of ask you guys some questions today and kind of get a little background on your experience in the military. And I'm just going to start by asking you all that. Just tell us a little bit about your military service prior to getting in the teacher profession. Sergeant Major Robinson, we're going to start with you, and just let us tell about how long you've been in the military, when you first commissioned, maybe in the Army, and all your experiences.
Well, I went in the Army as an enlisted guy in 1966 after high school, and went into the infantry, and I found myself in Vietnam in 67, and then went back again in 1970. Primarily, I wanted to be an infantryman, and that's what he let me be. And for the next 30 years, I did off and on infantry functions and jobs, and got promoted to Command Sergeant Major. I was a Division Sergeant Major at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was a Corps Sergeant Major at Fort Lewis, Washington when I retired in '96. I got a bachelor's degree in business administration. I've always been interested in teaching people how to do things. That was sort of what we did in the Army, is you train your replacement, so to speak. And I trained lots of enlisted guys doing lots of different things. So when I got out of service in '96, my wife and I sort of talked, and she wanted me to get into education. I was in a master's degree program for business administration. I applied and went to a place in eastern Kentucky called Letcher County.
Okay.
And then I went to Rockcastle County, and then Bruce Adair from here called me and asked me if I wanted to come to John Hardin. So I was one of the first guys, or second guys they hired at John Hardin.
And you've been there for 22 years?
22 years since the start, yes, sir.
Well, as we're appreciating our first veteran here, 30-year span in the military, 66 and 96, from the Vietnam War to Desert Storm.
Yes, sir.
In the early 90s. So saw a lot of things and represented our country well, and appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Chief D, maybe a different route into the military. Just kind of give us a little background about what you experienced.
Pretty much where he retires is where I end up picking up a kid growing up outside Chicago and everything. In 1990, joined the Army as enlisted, and right about the same time that I enlisted, that's when Desert Shield's Desert Storm kicked off. So I did 11 years enlisted, and then my boss, Chief Warrant Officer, came to me one day and said, "Hey, when are you going to drop your warrant officer packet? You have the material for it." So I dropped my packet, got picked up, and was a warrant officer ever since for the rest of my 28 plus years serving. Retired right here at Fort Knox after doing many tours. Every operation that we had in the Army, I had my support job doing that, and a lot of good, interesting, diverse assignments that took me and the family to experience a lot of things, especially in Europe. The family got to do more vacations than I did a lot of the times, right. Traveling through Europe, both our duty stations in Germany and Belgium. And then I ended up back at Fort Bragg, which any airborne soldier will tell you is the center of the universe, and did 8 plus years there, and served at 82nd Airborne, 18th Airborne Corps. I had support for all the special operations community while I was there too. So I had a lot of different experiences with a lot of different parts of our Army community, and I ended up here at 4th Cav as an observer controller, which then coaching, mentoring, training our National Guard and Reserve units all the way across the states and everything. And when it came time for me to retire, I actually first tried to go to John and apply for the John position, because both my boys were graduates there of John Hardin High School.
Really?
And then 2 years later, after doing many different things and still doing my woodworking, because that's the thing I really love doing, the North Hardin High School job came open right there, and I applied, and here I am, the second year.
So second year as a JROTC instructor. So 2 different paths, but very, very commonality here too. You're doing the same thing and teaching the next generation. It's kind of what you are doing now. You're preparing them, and
Yes, sir.
you know, I want the community to understand more about our JROTC programs in our high school, and you know, how are JROTC programs created within a high school? I'm just going to let Mr. Robinson talk to that one. So, Sergeant Major, how are they created in a high school?
Well, the first thing happens is the school board's got to want them in the school systems. Now, I happen to know the Hardin County systems came from Mrs. Gray when she was superintendent, and Sergeant Major Gray, which was at North Hardin High School, one of the first hires, and she pushed to put junior ROTC programs in all 3 of the schools and sort of set that up to happen. Because she believed that what we did down there in the programs was take and give the students an opportunity to develop discipline, leadership, become a better citizen, and understand the duties and responsibility of being a citizen. And consequently, those programs have been set up, and we've done that. A lot of different ways to do that, a lot of diversity between the 3 high schools, but normally we get about 10 to 20% of the kids will go into enlisted programs in the Army, Navy, Air Force, but then we'll get probably 3 or 4 each year that will get scholarships, go off to college, and go into the commissioned Army as an officer.
You know, that's huge. You know, Miss Gray, I was fortunate to work underneath her as well. When I came to Hardin County, I was an assistant principal. She was still superintendent. She was a very visionary leader.
Yes.
I think they had a military family background as well.
Yes, sir.
Her
Yes,
husband.
she did.
And so I think she saw the benefit of the leadership opportunities, the career opportunities, and the military support right here at Fort Knox that we could provide, you know, for our students. So, Chief D, I want to ask you this. You know, what's the benefit of having JROTC programs at every high school? You know, I mean, because not everybody has them across the state. We have them in all 3 schools. So, what's the benefit?
One of the easy benefits is the JROTC program, no matter which service it is that sponsors it, helps our young teenagers learn additional things that they don't learn in their math or English or science class. We teach them how to handle stress, how to organize thought, and through the layered leadership roles that our cadets get from when they start as freshmen through to their senior year, they are actually teaching themselves what we as instructors guide them through the process. So they're able to handle diverse situations, know how to handle stress, communication skills amongst themselves, and also the levels of respect that we hope that we encourage them to do as leaders in the community and just be better citizens ready for life after high school.
Yeah, which in turn will help them in their math class and their science class.
Yes.
And when they you know, enlist for the first time in one of our armed forces, and they may do a 4-year stint or maybe 8 years, and they come out and maybe move on to college, they take those skills with them. And that goes back to work ethic and discipline,
Yes, sir.
respect, and honor. So thank you for that. You know, but JROTC programs are not necessarily identical. They can be a little bit different from school to school. So, you know, maybe discuss how your program, a little bit about your program at your school and what makes it unique. Maybe you do something at North Hardin that they don't do at John. You know, so just talk about that. Sergeant Major, talk about that a little bit for us.
First of all, the program itself we get from Cadet Command and from the Army allows a lot of diversity within that program. So you can tailor it to the kids you get and what their interests as well. Now there's some basic stuff we all do, but we sort of tailor that in there. Now in John Hardin, we spend a lot of time doing physical training 2 days a week, so they get credit for physical training. Where the uniform 1 day a week is pretty straightforward, spend a lot of time working with the academics to understand how our government works, how the citizenship and what your duties and responsibilities are. Extracurriculars, we work with rifle team. I spend a lot of time getting a lot of folks when training them on rifles and how to shoot air rifles, safety and how to do that. Drill team, color guard, those type of activities. We get some involved with different things. We're just now coming on board with some drones we're starting to get from the Army and some robotics that we've had. I haven't got into it very much yet, but some of the other schools have.
So trying to keep up with some of the state-of-the-art military tactics now.
That's correct.
Well,
Yes, sir.
with the drones, you hear about that, even the war going over there in Ukraine
Oh, yeah.
and Russia right now. So absolutely. But Chief D, how does your program differ? Is there anything unique about North that may be different from John, or is it very similar?
It's similar, but the uniqueness I think about North is the fact that it's probably one of the larger JRTC programs. We have anywhere in a given school year 180 to 190 cadets that are in our program active through the school day. So we have our senior class, which is our headquarters class, and then 8 other classes throughout the school days. So as 3 instructors in our program, we're very busy with our 9 companies, forming that battalion and forming those relationships and bonds and esprit de corps within each one of the companies across our footprint.
That's amazing. I mean, we talk about numbers and we talk about our 3 high schools. When you say 180 to 200 kids, that's probably, out of 1,600 kids, 12 to 15% of the population in that school are involved in JROTC.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I'm sure, based on your school size, a little bit different, maybe 780 to 800 kids, but you
We
still have a
run
good
between
number.
80 and 90, and that's, our school runs around 750 to 900.
Very similar from a percent perspective. That is very unique, and to see kids actually what they do with those skills and what they do after high school is probably what makes you most proud. I know we'll get to some questions on that, but for those kids and families that may not understand a lot about, JROTC and what it does, what about the curriculum? What does that look like? Chief Deaver, why don't you talk about that for a minute? When you saw this curriculum as a teacher, what's your focus? Is it something you have to follow day to day and week to week, or course to course per se?
And that's the beauty of the program, as Sergeant Major alluded to. We get the framework and the basic foundation. This is what they're looking for each one of our what's called learning, education, training levels. Our freshmen have core things, objectives to do, and also with our sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So each one of them builds on the prior year's learning that they do. And because of that, our seniors, collaborating with the instructors, we will build the calendar out for the week of what we plan to do, what are our objectives, which we look at things like, well, what's the weather going to be this week? And have the students work on, okay, where can we do our training today? Is it going to be forced to be inside, outside? And so what of the things that we are to accomplish are we going to focus on that week and lay out a plan that then they execute, that we guide them through that week.
Right. Yours about the same?
Well, we do the same. We look at what we've got going on within supporting the school system as well, and we do a lot of things for Mr. Wells, and the program supports a lot of the school functions. So we try to make sure we're in accord with those.
Well,
I will say that most of our kids that are in the program stay in school.
Yes.
And we've
Good
had a
attendance.
lot of success with helping the school keep them involved and give them something to hang on to. And
It's true.
so,
Kids that connect, kids that are involved, they have something that they realize they're needed. They're goal setting every day.
yes, sir.
That's a huge thing that I think we forget. We've got to get kids connected to schools. It's not always going to be a sport. It's not always going to be a club, but it can be that class or that one program or that one teacher, that influences them to stay in school or to think about that career. But you mentioned that, Sergeant Major Robertson, I'll ask you about this. You mentioned some of the services that cadets provide across the school. What are some of those services that you see at John Hardin High School that you said they might do something for Mr. Wells? Give us some specific things they might do.
I'll use the Veterans ceremony we've got next week.
Okay.
Mr. Wells has handled that, and that's something that the junior ROTC program, our leadership staff plans it. We brief the companies. Each of the cadets are involved in some fashion or another. All 80 of them do different things, and we set that up. We sending out invitations to making sure we have refreshments, making sure we've got everything set up, the physical labor to do all that and make all that. And then we get the kids actually opportunities to interact with the veterans on the day they come there.
Yeah.
So all that's to help Mr. Wells recognize the veterans, which we're really glad he does. I'm particularly glad we took on that about 6-7 years ago, and it's been really good for us. So that's one of those areas that we do. We help them with, obviously we do color guards for football games. We help parking when they need parking down there. We help work with those guys that come in. We help other teachers when they need something that's going on up there and need additional people to come up there and do that. Just cleaning up the area sometimes is a well worthwhile effort. As the group leaders, we get involved in that. We've helped move sand over at the middle school. We've helped put up different things around the area, make sure the grass is growing right, so that kind of stuff.
What about you from a community perspective, Chief D? I know that's a lot of school things there, and what about community? Do y'all ever get a chance to get out and do service community projects or anything? Maybe talk about a few of those.
Right now at North Hardin High School, we have our Sergeant Major Paul Gray canned food drive that we're right in the middle of right now. We're collecting cans as a challenge for the companies and all students in the school to donate cans. And we look to support 50 families in the Radcliffe Vine Grove area and in support of one of the local churches. So we'll get all the cans put together, separate them out into 50 family boxes, and get turkeys and everything ready for the Christmas holiday season and everything, and take them over, then get distributed out to the community right before our holiday break time.
And I'm sure some of the cadets take part in that as well. Some delivery and the putting together. And
they do most of it, yeah.
They learn how to serve others. I think a lot of times people can be very self-absorbed in today's society, but if one thing JROTC probably teaches you is to serve others.
That's correct.
To be very selfless, not selfish.
That is one of the values we teach, selfless.
Yeah.
There's Army values, and that's one of them. And we do the parades. We help Rineyville run their show out there, so they get money for their fire department, volunteer fire department. So, and we do those. We do 4 parades a year, and then involved in other things like that.
All across the community.
Yes, sir. That's the deal.
And this is not necessarily one of the questions I had down to ask, but I'm curious. Do you happen to know a percent of your all students that come from military families with military background already? Like you mentioned, there's 80 to 90 kids in your program, 180. I wonder how many of those kids come from military backgrounds to begin with. I'm curious.
About 75% of our kids this year, using as an example, when I ask them who has family that has military in it, either direct or uncles, aunts, about 75% of them.
That's pretty good.
About the same. Yeah.
About the same. So they come from that background. They kind of know what they're signing up for, and they know the importance of the
Many times their families sign them up for it.
Right. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, but you may be able to hone in a little better. What are the most beneficial tasks and skills a cadet learns or performs? We talked about being selfless, but if you could just narrow it down to 1 to 2 things, you say, you know what, when this senior graduates, I want them to have this skill or to be able to do this. I want you to think about that for a second, because that's a loaded question. Because you do so much with a kid from 9th grade to 12th grade, but if you say there's 2 things I want them to know and be able to do, that's a hard question. What would you say?
First of all, I want them to graduate from high school.
Boom.
Okay. Second of all, I want them to understand that they can do a heck of a lot more than they think they can do. And have confidence in themselves.
Yes.
I like it. What about you, Chief?
Absolutely. exactly what Sergeant Major said, having the confidence in themselves that we hope we to bring out of the cadets while they're in our program. And you see it happen through the years that the student comes back again and again. You see them grow from that first year. And I know I've only done this 2 years, but seeing the freshmen from last year already showing the initiative and the self-confidence in themselves and wanting to be part of the program is a huge thing. It puts a smile on your face when they really start getting into being part of the program.
And watching that senior, in high school, and you watch them since they're freshmen, and you're thinking, it's night and day of it, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It is.
And the other one is respect, because respect goes a long way for whatever you do in life. If you're able to project respect, then it's always reciprocal. You know, no matter where you go, whoever you meet, and whatever you do in life, that foundation is easily built on to great success, no matter what you choose to do, and no matter what the students choose to do after high school.
Well said. Definitely it connects to our grade 8 standards right here in the district, and
Yes, sir.
be respectful. You know, and we've talked about this, many of your cadets go on to join the military. You know, some of them choose that as a career. Do you know kind of a little bit about your numbers, maybe some of your percents that actually join?
There's usually at John Hardin, we'll get between 2 and 4 every year that actually join in or take scholarships to go to college. That sounds pretty low, but for instance, today I had a cadet that graduated in 2019, and she was coming back today to get what we call a certificate of completion, where she can go in the military and get a higher rank. And she's getting ready to go in the Air Force. 3 years later, I figured out she needs to do that.
Really?
So that's not uncommon, sir.
So did she go to college first, or she just kind of wasn't sure what she wanted to do?
She did both. I think she
did
tried
both.
college. She was working, and between all that, based on my discussion with her, I just felt I wouldn't make it and going anywhere. So I wanted to do something.
Good for her.
So
she went back to the things she learned in the JROTC program, so I
and
think
she
that's
did,
for me.
and that really made me feel good, by the way.
Yeah.
So
What about you?
Last year, especially all the challenges of the first year back in classroom and everything, I was actually happy to see as we started this school year, a lot of the seniors actually that had graduated came back, and I did have at least 5 of them actually enlist in different services. And my cadet battalion commander from last year, he is actually down at the ROTC program down at WKU right now with a scholarship.
That is wonderful. And the thing is, I don't think people realize, I guess, the GI Bill and things that they can use when they do their military service, they can still use that to come back and go to school. Plus, it carries on to their next generation. Am I saying that correct?
you can.
That if you serve in the military so long and your children can use the GI Bill, at least one of them, to go on and pay for their school.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes I think people don't realize this program can be generational.
Can be.
It can impact over a long period of time. But just another thing here, what types of competitions do you all participate in? I know everything's competitive at times. You mentioned the rifle shooting, but what are the kind of competitions you all, or trips do you all take as JROTC groups in your schools?
Well, we have a drill team that goes to different schools in the area. Have the air rifle team that does. Have a color guard team that goes as part of that. Have a raider team that goes to different areas as well. So those are 4 things we use right now. As I said, we're starting to try to get up and do some robotics and work with our drone. So there'll be some competition. The Army and the brigade, and particularly Cadet Command at Fort Knox, does a good job of running that, helping us run that.
What about the same programs at North Hardin as far as competition or
absolutely.
anything different?
We have air rifle as well. All your different drill teams, from your marching drill exhibition, rifle teams. We have the color guards, and like he said, starting to get into here, the robotics is Vex Robotics, and here in the 7th Brigade supported us. We're standing up the archery, which is actually the NASP archery. That is already in the schools here in Hardin County.
So when y'all go up against each other, and I guess the air rifle teams, who wins? I'm curious.
Yeah, we have good fun competition.
Good fun competition.
Central, North,
He said,
John Hardin.
Chief D said, "Ah."
He's got 22 more years experience with his rifle teams.
We have lots of fun with
He's
that.
using that to his advantage, the experience.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Well, once again, Sergeant Major Charles Robinson, a retired Sergeant Major, and retired Chief Warrant Officer Edward Dick, I want to thank you all for being part of this show today. And I know that our community editor is going to be watching some of the clips from our Veterans Day ceremonies that are going to be going on
Yes,
next
sir.
week as well. We're going to be out in schools filming these ceremonies. And I want everybody out there to honor your veterans. If you have somebody that's in the military that served their country, make sure you tell them you appreciate their service. And, thanks for making America what it is. And I want to thank you all for coming back to Hardin County Schools to teach our kids.
My pleasure.
To
Enjoy it
support
every
the next
day.
generation.
Enjoy it every day.
So thank you all for this session of Impact Learning, Empowering Students, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
The North Hardin High School Army Junior ROTC Honor Guard will now present the POW MIA Missing Man ceremony. This table represents and pays tribute to all the prisoners of war missing in action and killed from all-American involvement in her wars, including World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf, Operations Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and more. Many have looked at this table and wondered. Let me explain. This table, set for 5, symbolizes the frailty of all the prisoners against their oppressors. Remember, the tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of our country's call to arms. Remember, the single candle displayed in the center of the table is symbolic of the families and loved ones who are kept waiting for the return of those so dear to them. Remember, the red ribbon, tied so prominently around the candle, represents the ribbon worn around the lapel and on the breast of many thousands who bear witness to unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting of our missing and return of all Americans from foreign soil. Remember, the salt on the bread plate is symbolic of the tears of the families as they still wait for those so dear to them. Remember, the lemon represents the bitterness of their fate. Remember, the glasses are inverted. They cannot toast with us this evening. Remember, the chairs are empty, for they are not here. Remember, all of you who served with them and called them brothers and sisters, you who depended on their might and strength, you who relied upon them, remember, for surely they have not forgotten you.
The story must be told of valor and bold. So let them write it down in history. A young soldier cries for his comrades who died, fighting for a cause that they believe. But nobody's seen or heard a sound. There was no parade for them downtown. We found the last footwear standing by the wall of fallen heroes. Tell their mothers that their sons are marching in the sky. Tell them that they're soldiers of the cloud. Please tell them so they know. Tell them that they're soldiers of the cloud. The wounds will never heal, and the feelings that they feel left a scar for all the world to see. But the eagle will always fly for the men who fall and die, and it flies for all eternity. But nobody's seen or heard a sound. There was no parade
Outstanding.